Today on Red Dead Radio, parting is such sweet sorrow.
And I stand unshaken. No, it's not it.
I hate you so much. That's the intro. All right, good. Hi, friends. Welcome to Red Dead Radio, the Red Dead Redemption podcast. I'm your host, Jerry Petty. And for the last time, we're going straight to the Wild Wild Guest.
We're going straight to the Wild Wild Guest. We're going straight to the Wild Wild Guest. Yeah!
Or guest host, or whatever you are.
I don't know. It just makes me sad that I'm not going to hear you get to rattle that off.
I know.
A whole lot more.
Can't do it all excited anymore. What really hurts me is that Cisco never got to be on here. I really wanted to have the Dragon as a guest on this podcast.
We'll do a special reunion episode.
The reunion tour?
We'll do a reunion episode if and when he ever comes to town.
Like the Cheers 10-year reunion. It's just going to be all of us together sitting on a stage.
Exactly. It'll be a clip show.
Oh, there we go. I love that. We definitely... Oh, man,
remember that time we talked about Blackety Black and it's just a cut to you and I just screaming?
Do you remember the time we talked about Red Dead Radio? Red Dead Redemption,
I do. I remember all. What episode number is this?
This is episode number 39. We almost made.
That's it, really?
Yeah.
It feels like we made so many more of these.
Well, I mean, it was just.
You did make so many more of these. I've only been here for like half of them.
About half of them, I'd say. Yeah,
shame
quite a
me.
few of them.
Shame
No,
on me
you were
for
here
not
for a
being
lot of
here.
them. I'm sure we can get a count. Anyway. So you're probably surprised to learn this is the final episode of Red Dead Radio because that was not the plan. Originally, we intended to keep doing this for many, many months, following Red Dead through its beta and on into its full-featured release, etc. into DLC. We expected Undead Nightmare, etc. So what's happened? Well,
somebody had to go and be too goddamn cool.
I got a new job. I got a new day job, and that is going to eat most of my free time, including the time that I used to make this show. And so as much as I regret it and as much fun as I've had doing this, the fact of the matter is I can't do both. And so Red Dead Radio has to, alas, life fallow.
It's going to ride off into that beautiful sunset of the internet.
It does. It's got to get buried in Boot Hill.
No. It just rides off into the sunset.
Here lies Lester Moore, 6 slugs from a 44. No less, no more.
I thought that was going to get dirtier.
You never heard. No, it's an epitaph from a tombstone in Boot Hill. Yeah, here lies Lester Moore, 6 slugs from a 44, no less, no more.
I thought that was going to turn into a dirty limerick. I'm not going to lie.
No, there was nothing about Nantucket in there. Nantucket is not in the West. That's not how it works.
No Nantuckets, no buckets.
There were no plumbers from Bree, etc. No, none of that going on. All right, look, friends. I can't. Yeah, I'm going to miss doing this with you. This is a time of lamenting, a time of mourning, a time of sadness because. You may be aware of it by now. John Ryan and I really liked Red Dead Redemption, but even more we like hanging out and talk about it.
It's true. Well, here's the good news. You and I can still do that.
We can. That's true.
Before we get too deep into the weeds and whatever it is we're going to keep talking about for the remaining so many minutes that
I love
show
your
is going
fake
to exist.
Watch. You're like, is that a fake Casio digital watch?
No, of course not. It's that half past a freckle notion.
Oh, look, half past a freckle notion, eh?
You ever heard that before?
Never.
Not the notion part, but just like, what time is it? It's half past a freckle. It doesn't matter what time it is.
Is that one of your weird Martha's Vineyard things?
I mean, it could be a weird New England thing for sure. It's something I remember from my childhood. That's definitely
kidding.
Oh yeah,
I'll be.
Yeah. I think regardless of any of that bullshit, the real thing, I know that I've been on this show, goddamn, all the time, probably too much for several of you out there. But on behalf of myself and I think a bunch of your viewing audience, I just want to say thanks for having all the great passion that you have and bringing it to this project because it's been super fun talking about Red Dead with you for the last year or so.
Yeah,
I can't believe we've been doing this for like a year.
I know, and I hate that we had to. I feel like we had to stop just as we got started, and
it's my fault.
Begun. No, it's my fault. I was really having a good time.
Hey, it's okay. It's not your fault, pal.
Well, it is.
But for the sake of things, like livelihood's important.
Livelihood is important.
As we learned from Arthur and Dutch.
Yeah.
Crazy ways of finding ways to keep your wacky nonsense going ultimately doesn't work out in the end.
I got a writing job with a group called Free Association. You haven't heard the last of me. Those of you that follow the stuff that I'm doing, I'm sure you're going to hear from me again. Those of you that follow on Patreon and help out there. There's a longer message on Patreon explaining exactly what is and isn't changing because I still like to do things and make things for fun. And I want people to continue to know what those are. So you can hop over to the Patreon site or reddeadradio.com that has an explanation for everything that's going on and how things are going to change, what will and won't happen there. I really appreciate it. Y'all have allowed me for the last year to do something I really care about. I mean, Red Dead Radio began late last spring, early last summer before E3.
Yeah.
Now we've been doing it ever since, and I've been making my own stuff on my own, along with Kind of Funny, IGN, etc., since about February. And so it's been a year.
Yeah.
What a year.
I know, right? It's been crazy.
How has the world changed in 1 year? 1 year ago, Red Dead Redemption was merely a twinkle in our eyes, my friend. We didn't even know about the stone hatchet.
That was a hell of a thing.
No, we didn't. We did not know about that. We didn't know there was a Micah Bell or what was up with him.
Well, honestly, I could go back to knowing nothing about Micah and be quite happy about it.
We had never heard of Sadie Adler,
which is a shame. That was a shame.
I
think the great thing is, like, seeing. Yes, it's unfortunate that Red Dead Radio has come to an end, but like, it's also a cool thing that you get to start this new chapter with this new gig. And I've been thinking
Epilogue 3.
So yeah, exactly. Epilogue 3 is starting. I've been thinking about this a lot as I've been working on some stuff for IGN the last couple of weeks about sort of next chapters. And I was thinking, because this is ostensibly the end of our Epilogue 2, that we could just sort of go through it and what are the next chapters that we would want to see coming out of Red Dead 2, and obviously Red Dead 1 already happened.
Yeah.
So I don't need to see what happens in John's story.
Although we do indeed get that question that we talked about at the end of the last episode. I mean, will we see John's story rendered in this engine?
Well,
Who knows?
yes.
Yeah. But let's talk about the story. It's obvious there'll be a Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. Where do we
3
go after Red Dead 2?
Do we go to Red Dead Redemption 3 or do we go to Red Dead something else? I mean, that's my
like
first
Red
one.
Dead colon.
Well,
the fourth game.
Yeah, there was Red Dead Revolver. There was Red Dead Redemption 1 or 2. Is there a Red Dead Revenge? I mean, that's such it kind of
Red Dead Retribution.
Yeah, they write themselves, right? They seem like things that ought to happen because I think the story
Red Dead
of
Rooster,
Arthur and John's story.
I would play that.
I hate you so much.
I'm sorry.
Obviously, we've come out before talking about. I think of all the breakout characters, Sadie's the one that I think we most expect to see more in other things.
I would hope
Charles,
so. At the very least.
I think there's a potential. The fact that Charles walked away.
So it's funny. I was roaming around the open world after returning to it after some time, and I've been going around finding all of the other surviving gang members.
Yeah,
and I've really enjoyed it. Like Pearson's running the general store in Rhodes. And I think that there is this fun, Tilly lives in Saint Denis.
Yeah.
You run into Mary Beth, at the train platform in Valentine. She's writing these lewd romance novels under a weird pen name. And I think there is, I don't necessarily
kind of like I do.
Happen. Yes. If you don't know, Jared is an accomplished what's the right
fantasy erotic novelist?
Yeah, I was
for
going to
Amazon.
try and
I read the bulk of the
Jared's
Bigfoot,
actually
the
Chuck
Bigfoot
Tingle.
porn.
You're Chuck Tingle. It's okay. Congratulations.
I don't know. I think I wanted my my name to be Brian St. Pierre if I was.
That's pretty good.
But I actually think that's
a pretty good.
But I think that's a real softcore guy's name. I said that, and then I actually think that is in fact a real softcore porn guy's name.
It's no Steve Rambo though.
So I don't want to. Steve. Ooh, that's pretty good.
That's a real good one.
I like
that.
That
is an authentic name out of porno
Steve
history, and it is
Rambo.
quite terrible.
That's amazing.
Why
do you listen to the show?
I don't know. But anyways, Steve Rambo's aside, I think it would be really interesting, and I don't necessarily think this will happen, but I think it would be really fun to sort of get that side of the gang back together, the side of the gang that we didn't really get to know a whole lot about. There are a few times throughout the game where you can sit down with Mary Beth, you can sit down and play dominoes with Tilly. You can argue with Pearson about a lot of things. I don't know about you, but my Arthur had a very standoffish relationship with Pearson.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah,
it was I was really, really nice to almost everybody.
But
I alternated about 50-50 for greet and antagonize when it came to Pearson.
Well, we did read his mail as we rode along. I mean,
it did.
That was kind of mean of us, definitely. Yeah. I think there's a lot of places we could Landon Ricketts. Again, going even earlier. Yeah. Because one thing Rockstar has not done yet, and I understand doing prequel after prequel might be odd for folks, but the Wild West, as we think of it, is primarily confined to the late 1860s to early 1880s.
Yeah,
a period of time they haven't touched at all.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see them tackle it strictly from the side of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw what happens when you play a Rockstar game that is about being a quote good guy in LA Noire, and I thought a lot of people had very mixed feelings on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that seeing what a good guy game from them looks like, because it was still very gray.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, that's kind of their MO, right?
Yeah.
Is that ethics are inherently an exercise in something between hard work and futility.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a part of that. I like that thought. Where do you think they go then? Now, let's talk about that. And we're not prophets. We are not planning staff for Take-Two.
I mean, my hope is always space. Like, I'll never see Space Cowboys.
Space Cowboys?
Mm-hmm.
Will you be a Gangster of Love?
No.
Will you be more...
Nope.
No?
No.
It's strange
Nope.
that they couldn't find a rhyme for love and they just went to love again. You ever notice that about the beginning of the Joker?
You're bad at writing songs.
No,
that's not true. That's
the Joker makes me happy, but it is odd that they rhymed love with love.
Yep. No, I think like I would love to, like in terms of just a Red Dead follow-up.
Yeah.
I think the quote Old West, the Wild West is smart. I would love to just see more stories in that world. Like I think like the fact that Landon Ricketts has kids books written about him, I think he's the perfect target for another game.
Okay.
Or Sadie. Yeah. Or literally anybody. Introduce me to a new sheriff.
That's
like,
the other
bring
possibility.
back...
Like leaving. I mean, we like having our connections, but I do like the idea. Westerns are a wide.
I mean, I would be
open
okay
genre.
if they decided to bring back Red Dead Revolver, like redo Red Harlow's story, or carry that on.
I like
you
that
know,
a
like
lot.
pick it up from the. You know, I don't think there would probably. I don't think they would probably do that because it's so heavily influenced the sort of character design of John Marston. But I would totally play another Red Harlow game.
I think it'd be interesting to see a kind of sepia-toned Gary Cooper take on the Wild West. I mean, High Noon, for all the accolades it receives and all the tropes that it created by, you know, it literally is the movie about the shootout on Main Street at a certain time, but it is actually a very dark revisionist Western despite being very early. It's largely about questions of values and what defines who we are and what real heroism is and what we're willing to give up for the people we love. And I wonder if they could find a way to take a more classical rustic setting and make that work. I like the idea of Wild West that isn't almost completely tamed, because they have leaned into that an awful lot.
Yeah.
But if you go back a little further, it's still a mess, but it's a very different kind of mess.
Right. It's a mess that people aren't trying to clean up yet. They're just trying to make their way into it.
Yeah. Being there, of course, that raises all kinds of storytelling issues, but being there in the middle of the period just after the Civil War until the mid-1870s when the Lakota Wars began.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating period for Western history. I don't think they're going to want to go much earlier than that, just because Six Guns, of all things, I think Six Guns affect the way we think about the West.
I thought you were referring to another media property.
No, we don't.
No, you mean
video games
revolvers
tend to all end, like they go from bows and arrows to revolvers.
Yeah, there are no muskets. There
right.
are
no period of history in video games existed between bows and arrows and repeating firearms.
There was that one Assassin's Creed where you got flintlock pistols.
And there was a History Channel game. Do you remember that? There was like some History Channel game where you would reload a musket.
I don't remember that, and I think with good reason.
I don't know what you're talking about. What we need in video games are more muskets, my friend.
I don't know about that.
Far more musketry.
I think muskets are great in VR.
Okay.
Because they're hilarious. But that's about it.
There's
a musket in GTA Online. It is a bad gun.
Yeah, is there a musket in GTA
there is,
Online?
Yeah, it's not good.
That.
It's not
Was
good.
it part of one of the Independence Day updates?
It was, yes.
Yeah,
it was
okay,
part of that.
Right.
There was a game mode introduced that is
right.
muskets only. Which is a delightful game mode, but as soon as you get out of that game mode, as soon as any other weapon is introduced into the field, you're just like doomed.
I don't know. I mean, musketry, like a super fast shot, like during the Napoleonic Wars, the British infantry were renowned for their ability to fire 4 shots a minute.
Wow,
that was the deciding factor.
That's like really good.
Yeah, every 15 seconds, redcoats could fire a shot. Like that was how hard they trained. They just trained like 5 hours a day reloading and shooting muskets in formation.
Powder in, ball goes in, tap it down, pull it out. Fire
Aim,
the gun, ball goes in, gun.
Exactly, and they could sustain that rate of fire for several minutes.
Yeah.
Like, that was how they beat the French. Along with the discovery that, like, hiding on the other sides of hills was a very effective way to avoid artillery.
No, really?
Well, that was kind of a revolutionary idea when it was first thought of.
Guys, holy shit. They can't see us. They can't, if we just go, if we can't see them, fine, but like they can't see us.
Oddly, despite the fact that they figured it out, the French were smart enough to figure out, you know what happens if you shoot cannonballs really low on one side of a hill?
It'll go through the
They
hill.
roll over the other side real fast. So they still had plenty of... Damn it. Yeah, the French are like... They actually learned to skim cannonballs over
Dude,
hills.
you know, here's the thing. If they did Red Dead Revolution, I'd be fine with it.
That's
I'd be
very
A-okay
strange.
with it. It'd be a silly, wacky game.
Well,
but
I mean,
would
there's
kind of love
AC3, right? You mentioned the flintlocks, and
it. AC3, AC Unity
sucks, but
I mean, yeah.
Black
I was going
Flag
to try
had
and defend it,
flintlocks,
but like
right?
I never actually finished it, so I can't say anything.
Black Flag has flintlocks, though.
It does. That's the one that I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking about Assassin's Creed 3.
By the way, while we're on this, where is my Lamont revolver? Where? Where's my 9-shot revolver with the 18-gauge shotgun barrel?
Sorry, pal.
Underneath.
You got to wait for that DLC.
Okay,
You got to wait for
that-
that update pack.
That, my friends, was in the original Red Dead Redemption. I have
was.
a feeling that we're going to see that someday.
I
that's-
mean, maybe.
it's way too cool.
I would. So again, much like with the Trapper in online, I would be very surprised if we don't see a.
Yeah.
You know, it's strange because we already have the Mauser and we already have the semi-automatic pistol in Red Dead 2, but I would be very surprised if we don't see a more modern.
Like the M1911?
Maybe. I mean, it's still OT7.
Right. That's the
time.
thing. Yeah,
oh,
but-
actually, no, because Red Dead Online takes place before the events of Red Dead 2.
Right. So it hasn't been
So
invented yet. But do they
it's
care?
I don't think they do.
I mean, that you get handed the 1911 in
Look,
Red
if
Dead
GTA
1.
Online takes place in 2015 and they have fucking jetpacks, I don't think we're going to
And I think the online does stretch that credibility, definitely.
It does,
I mean, that's
and
part of the
that's
fun.
what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
well, you do what's for the sake of fun. But there was a lot of extraordinary historical fidelity. We've talked about that.
Oh, of course, and I think that they will try and maintain that. Like, it's tonally, it's just two very different products.
And I'm glad for that.
Yeah, if you go into Red Dead Online expecting it to be GTA Online, you will be disappointed, and that's kind of no one's fault but your own. Sorry. Well, no, and I don't mean that to say, like, if you're not enjoying Red Dead, then that's your fault. But if you expect Rockstar to create an experience that is almost the exact same as GTA Online,
Yeah.
in a world 120 years earlier, with a very different style of play, that's not going to happen.
I think the style of play is the key thing. Your current boss, my former boss, a guy named Sam Claiborne, and I were talking recently. He shared this on GameScoop recently, that he was not especially enthralled with Red Dead's gameplay, but he regards it as, and he called it one of the greatest works of art people have ever made.
It's gorgeous.
And he's talking about that interactive, virtual, beautiful world.
Yeah.
And he said it's just a feat. Now, I differ with him on the gameplay. I had a lot of fun playing the game.
Yep.
But I do think that of all the things that we're going to remember Red Dead's legacy for, I think it's going to come in two waves. First, that undeniable wave of the artistry, the beauty, the fidelity. Mm-hmm. And then a second wave where we're going to look at that and go, we complained about the gunplay, and we complained about the inventory system, and we complained about the open world tension versus the storytelling tension. But man, slowing things down and creating a world where you can interact with everything exactly the same way in a persistent, thoughtful
where
system.
things just work the way you would expect them to in that way. Yeah.
Wow, that was way better than we thought. I think that's going to be the second wave of legacy for this game. I think that'll be the revisionist remembrance of Red Dead. When we're writing about this game in 10 years, we're going to go, wow, this game was full of ideas, and they were so good, we didn't realize how good some of them were at the time. And there are plenty of flaws in this game that I love. I talk a lot about how this game was made for me. Mm-hmm. So I see through a lot of its less perfect aspects.
Yeah.
But I think that the sum of its achievements so tremendously outweighs the sum of its flaws that it is a monumental work. And I think that those acts of interface and the deliberate pacing, we're going to look back and go, wow, that was the introduction to another way we're going to make games.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the same can, in a way, be said about the original Red Dead. You know, I don't remember the first one. I don't look back fondly on the first Red Dead Redemption for its super tight gunplay. I don't look back and think like about how exciting pressing A to move my horse was. I think about it in the terms of the way that it made me feel, the way that it told its story, and the way that I felt inhabiting that world, that sense of solitude, that sense of sort of isolation in nature, as opposed to, you know, the way that some folks might look at how Halo made them feel the first time they played it, or the way that GTA makes you feel when you can bomb around in a sports car.
Yeah.
You know, GTA is very much a game where you focus on the gameplay mechanics. And I think that Red Dead's gameplay mechanics, while, you know, some of them, sure, you can argue that they're flawed, I think that that's forgivable because the gameplay mechanics themselves are solely in service to the way that the game lets you inhabit that world and makes you feel.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think they accomplished what they wanted to do. Look, but obviously, we're biased. This is Red Dead Radio.
It is the name of the show.
I like to believe that if we'd have been disappointed by the game, we'd have told you. We weren't. It ate up a good portion of my life.
It's still eating up a good portion of my life. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I do have my issues with it. I think that there's a few bits of the story aspects that are deeply flawed. You know, there's chunks that I just don't get.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but like, I think they're items that, while they may not have satisfied me fully personally, they absolutely don't ruin the experience.
No,
that
I'm the same, and I feel like for something on the scope, nothing's ever come close to the ambition of what they achieved with this.
Yeah.
Yes, there are those issues, but I was having a discussion earlier today. I do a little show on Kind of Funny called Debatable, where
do you now?
Yeah, and well, I don't anymore. I did. Now, likewise, along with Red Dead Radio, my work Kind of Funny as a regular contributor is also ending as I take this new job. But Debatable is a show where we create dynamic top 10 lists on the fly every episode. It's a lot of fun. And I host that. And we did an episode just today where we had Lucy James and Greg Miller arguing about the top 10 PlayStation 4 games.
Big list.
It's a lot of fun.
Especially for those two.
Exactly. It was great. But we also take contributions from the community, and they have to, like, sometimes they have to argue for community picks. Like, our debaters have to take on community picks and represent. Kind of like debate club in high school, where
where you're forced to argue a side.
Exactly.
Did anyone have climate change doesn't exist?
No,
today?
no one had that today. But somebody did have Edith Finch versus GTA 5. And it was that storytelling argument was fascinating because there was so much mutual respect on the part of the debaters. First off,
right.
But second, that question of what it's like to try to create a very compact storytelling experience like Edith Finch.
Yeah.
And a very vast storytelling experience like Red Dead. Edith Finch, I think.
You mean GTA 5 or you mean
No. Or did I say GTA 5? I meant Red Dead. I always say
okay.
So it wouldn't be Red Dead Radio. Edith Finch versus
Red Dead. Not.
I did it
Finch
again.
GTA 5.
It is not Red Dead Radio if I don't misrepresent Red Dead as GTA. There's some kind of mental block inside my head.
It's okay.
That was amazing.
I don't think I actually caught it.
All right. Well, whatever it was, there's something flying around in this.
So Edith Finch versus Red Dead.
Yeah, Edith Finch versus Red Dead. Thank you. And mutual respect on the part of the debaters there. It was one place where they kind of laid off the heel aspects that they've been leaning into, especially Greg. But percentage-wise, Edith Finch probably nails more landings percentage-wise to its story beats, maybe than Red Dead does percentage-wise.
You mean in terms of the core narrative beat for beat?
But Edith Finch is like a 3-hour story.
Right.
And Red Dead is a 70-hour story.
Right.
Told in an open world. And still comes, percentage-wise, very, very close.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there are definitely some beats that they falter on, but I don't think there's ever a beat where they fail.
Yeah, and the moments where they succeed.
Oh, they're stellar.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Yeah.
I was watching, if you ever get around to it, spoilers lightly. Well, I guess big spoilers, but at this point, I can't imagine you haven't finished the game. Anyways, this is considered the last 8 seconds of your spoiler warning. There's a scene that I had missed because I haven't 100% of the game yet, that someone showed me today, where it's John at Arthur's graveside when you do finish, and it just like kicks into cinematic cam, and he says a little something to Arthur, and then that Stand Unshaken song kicks in just for like a few seconds, and I was like, God damn it, that's so good.
Unshaken shook me.
Oh,
the first time around.
Every time.
Warma was so weird. And then there you are, and the rain's coming down, and it begins. And it's just, that's strange.
Like, I mean, there are those moments, like that riding through. And like, here's the fucking thing about the ride back from Gorma, is that at first I was like, about that whole sequence. Oh. Well, so the way that it struck me, and granted, I was very tired and coming after a long sequence of just like trying to fucking get through Gorma. But the way that sort of landed for me, like, it was a cool sequence, like riding back through the rain with this really dope song. But when I first experienced it, I was like, oh, this is them just trying to do the Mexico thing again. And I felt like it was them actively trying to capture lightning in a bottle a second time. And so it's not that I thought it was bad. It just like felt, at first I thought it felt a little bit forced.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I thought it was just like, okay, here are the staples of a Red Dead game. You're a cowboy. The West is almost done. You're going to die at the end and play as somebody new. I think I just missed a thing, but... And then there's going to be a part where you ride from one place to another place, and it's going to be a long moving
Except
thing.
They do it again?
But then they do it fucking again. And then they do it again, and it's great, and it's so good.
Yeah. I've said many times, my favorite point in the game is the singing cowboy bit with John Marston. I thought I was going to die. And it suddenly turns into a Happy Gene Autry song.
Oh, God.
And he's got his John Marston outfit on, and he's like, I'm riding off to be a cowboy, and it's so happy. Yeah. Like... all it needed was Roy Rogers, like, singing along, and it would have been perfect.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like, you look at the way that moment, that sort of Arthur's last ride, that that's the way it is moment, where you're looking back through all the choices you made throughout the game. I'm just like, oh, God. It's like they've got me on the ground, and they're just punching me just right in the feelings of my face.
So, I mean, you and I, obviously, we waxed pretty praiseful, and it was a big surprise. Yeah, a little bit. If you're listening to this, you probably enjoyed the game. We're glad you did. I think it will be noted in the history of the medium as an important moment. I think it taught us a lot. I look forward to what they're going to do with it next. I can't wait to see what happens to get out of beta. Honestly, I feel like I'm abandoning the game in its infancy.
But you're super not, because you can always come back to it. You still owe me a goddamn Let's Play.
You know what? We're going to have to do it off camera at some point.
Son of a bitch.
Maybe
I'll secretly record it and put it up on you guys later.
We do want to thank, through the course of the show, we've received a lot of kind words and messages from a lot of fans here, and also some nice things from Rockstar Games, including this really dope blanket.
You got a real nice horse blanket there.
We got this.
Oh shit!
Bodacious Arthur Morgan shotgun jacket.
Look at you go! You're gonna look fancy as hell out there.
If I ever shrink enough to wear it, I was small enough to wear it.
I bet you.
And then I caught like Christmas weight.
Oh well, that's Christmas weight. That'll happen.
Got that. So I want to thank Rockstar very much for recognizing what we did here and choosing to support us. We got that cool little shot glass there as well. But most importantly, we want to thank the audience. Look at that. Kind of a little nifty collapsible shot glass there. Oh, John Ryan taking that shot. Look at that.
For you,
pouring one out. Kumpai.
Your glass is empty.
So. Oh no, I'm good. I got to look here.
Oh, okay, great. Yep. Well, cheers. Fine. All for me then.
Ladies and gentlemen, we realize this has been an unstructured, complete disaster.
Oh, it's been a hot mess.
The beginning. This whole show, from the very beginning, the 39 episodes of ridiculousness.
I've never been happier to be part of roughly 16 to 18 episodes of such a hot mess.
John Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
You were
I
wonderful
mean that.
This whole time.
I said it earlier. I mean it from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so very much for your passion, for bringing it and sharing it with me, and obviously with everybody else. and for just letting me come and have a real good goddamn time. Talk
Yeah.
about cowboys and stupid nonsense.
Well, thanks to you. Thanks for IGN, who let us use their facilities early on. Thanks to US Gamer, who supported us in many, many different ways into Kind of Funny that allowed me to harp on about this whole thing. And to GameSpot, who were really friendly and let me come over there and bother them one day when they had some great exclusive stuff. To Rockstar Games for helping along. But most of all, to you, the patrons, the listeners, the fans, the folks that supported me financially, the folks that subscribed, the folks that wrote encouraging letters and wrote in, and everyone else. Bless y'all. This is it. This is the end. As Bilbo Baggins said, I am leaving now. Goodbye. Happy trails.
Aw. I like good. Always good to go out on a good fucking Bilbo quote.